Fantastic. My name is Deborah Peters, and welcome to the Deborah Peters Show. I am absolutely thrilled to have you join me again this week. I have a stellar guest for you. Can't wait to dig in with Yvonne and unpack one of the biggest hurdles that most people have in life, and certainly most business leaders deal with, and that is the time trap illusion. We have these limiting beliefs in society about two main blocks, and one is time and the other one is money. So when you start to master your perception of time and actually how you use your time, that can have a direct impact in such a massively positive way on your money flow. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. This is my wonderful guest from The Hague, across the pond, Yvonne Dam. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so pleased to do this. I love connecting with other business coaches, especially that are international, and we can kind of chew the fat on what people are up against and what they're perceiving as reality, and then give them some tools so they can make the changes that they want to make. So you are an online coach, and from my understanding, you were on that path before we entered into the pandemic. So tell me a little bit about what motivated you to do that.
Sure. When I started my business, I already knew I wanted to be able to work from everywhere
Yeah.
because when I started, I lived in London. Currently, I'm in the Netherlands, in The Hague, and in a couple of months, I will be in Spain. And I knew that I didn't want to be rooted in one place. So that was one reason. And the other reason was I've always worked my entire career internationally, and I
Mm.
wasn't planning on giving that up. I mean, I love to work with people in the States. I know you love to work with people in London as well. And I don't want to have any physical boundaries, and that with the online platforms we have these days, it is always available. So I like to work from anywhere with anyone.
Me too. It's interesting. No boundaries and no limitations, like absolute freedom. I remember a few years ago, probably 10 years ago now, one of my big goals was to have a laptop lifestyle. And I actually was speaking at a marine industry event in Southampton, the south of England. And I was sitting in the hotel, had my laptop out, and I was plugging in contacts into my CRM. And I had this light bulb moment, and I just was like, wait a minute, I am living a laptop lifestyle. And so meeting the people, going to different communities, talking to um, boots on the ground that are having different experiences with their businesses. And then I find the biggest perk is being able to then share that with clients from other parts of the world and even back here in the US, and saying, well, this is how the Italians handle it, or this is how the Dutch handle it, or this is how the Brits handle it. And they're like having these light bulb moments. I'm sure you probably experience the same.
Yes, for sure. And it also really helps that you understand the cultures where people come from and where
Hmm.
people work in, because it can be very different. So, for example, as a Dutch person, I'm perceived to be quite direct.
Sure.
So, when I'm in a coaching session with one of my clients and I feel I need to say something that might be a bit intrusive to them, I will say to them, come on, this is me, a Dutch person speaking, and then I just say it. But because they know where I'm from, they take it really, really well. And it really helps me to dive a bit deeper actually than you would normally do.
Yeah, there's no point in sugarcoating it or, sort of like tiptoeing around things. They come to you for a particular reason, and that is to get a breakthrough. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about, you know, we have this issue on the table, and it's time.
Yes.
So people are often saying, and I hear it a lot, it's like, I either don't have the time or I don't have the money. And both aren't true, right? Because both are perceptions of reality, and it's a shift in mindset. So How do you address that?
Well, when people say I don't have time, basically what they're saying, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, I don't think it's important enough.
Yeah,
Because if there is something they really like to do, they will make the time.
right.
And you speak about the perception of time, and this is so important. I like to say we can bend our time.
Mm.
Now, in modern society, it almost has become a trend to tell people around you how busy you are. When someone asks you how you're doing, oh, I'm so busy, which for a lot of people says, I'm actually very successful because
I'm important.
look at me being busy.
Yeah.
But if you try to say, I'm so busy for 5 times in a row, you will already feel your stress levels go up.
Hmm.
So you are already like telling yourself, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time. So if you really want to change your perspective, start by saying, I have enough time. I can do that. I
Yes.
have enough time. And you can already feel again how you actually slow down and you feel, oh, I can do more.
Yeah, it reminds me of when we used to do these exercises with clients around values, and we would run a values elicitation and then figure out what the hierarchy was of the values.
Mhm.
When I first did that exercise, fitness and health were my number one value and I think they probably still are. It's like it was the end all be all to me. And even to this day, when I plug in my calendar for the week or the month or the year, my workouts go in there before anything else because it is such a high priority to me. And then I never have an issue finding time to take care of myself. Sundays are food prep day. I go do the provisioning, come back, I go for a hike, and then I spend some time food prepping. So I never get in that, caught up in that trap of eating in restaurants or doing takeout because it's a priority. And that's what you're saying. It's if you really, really want something, then it's got to be prioritized. And that makes all the difference in the world because that changes your perception.
For sure. Yes. Yes. And I love that you're saying, your values and what's important to you and how you put that in your calendar first. And this is where I see it go wrong because people often, think, okay, my calendar is for business. And
Right.
they put in all their work appointments and everything they need to do. And then, kind of as an afterthought,
Hmm.
their life, their health, their fitness, their family. And then they go like, yeah, I don't have time. Yeah, but it's the wrong way around.
Yeah.
It's not
Yes.
your main priority. So start there and then everything else will find its place.
I think that's a fundamental paradigm that is in society, that's in humanity, that is a false premise that, first of all, there is not enough time to have the quality of life that you want to have because you're supposed to grind it out and you're supposed to work all the time. And, that badge of honor of how busy I am, really what it tells me as a coach is that you don't really have a handle on your mental emotional state, that you're looking for something outside of you to validate you and make you feel important, because otherwise you'd be fostering and cultivating a deep and meaningful relationship with yourself, which bumps your creativity, bumps up your productivity, and those have direct impact on the results you get. So when you're working with a client, it sounds to me like you're really digging into how they perceive reality.
Yes.
And then there's what else are you doing with them that can enable them to take that new perception and turn it into tangible results?
So, what I use when I coach my clients is a framework which is called the time matrix.
Mm,
And it really works well because it's easy to remember. So let me take you through the steps.
Yeah.
The T stands for target, or in other words, what are your main goals? And when I speak about your main goals, I mean life and business.
Hmm.
So don't make the mistakes just focusing on business. Okay. So, what are your main goals? What do you want to achieve? How do you want your life to look like? Then, based on that picture, we make a strategy. And a lot of people have a monetary goal. Let's say they want to make 100K a year. Okay, so how many services do you need to sell to come to the 100K? Now, let's say they need to sell 1,000. Okay, so how many hours would that mean from your time? And then already a lot of times there's a misconnection between this is my monetary goal. This is how many hours I need to put in. Oh, but I don't have any hours left and I didn't want to work so much. So that's the first insight already that something needs to change. Either they need to bring down their goal, they need to raise their prices, or they need to start selling something else. It really
Right.
is becoming crystal clear. This is what I want to focus on. This is how I want to live my life. That's the T.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have the T for target. Then the I is for implementation. Now,
Nice.
this sounds easy. Okay, I've got my goal. Now I'm going to work towards my goal.
Sure.
In reality, this is again where it often goes wrong because we're working. Someone calls us. Can you do this for me? Oh, sure, I can do that. Not checking whether it's something I wanted to do. Or we go online and we see this amazing ad. You need to start doing a podcast now. It wasn't aligned with my goal. But if they're saying I need to do a podcast, let me do
Yeah.
a podcast. So the implementation, if you do it right, you keep to your goals.
Hmm.
And Warren Buffett said it very nicely. He said the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything.
Yeah.
So implement those actions that are aligned to your goals. And then you will go automatically to the M, which is the next letter, which stands for momentum.
Love it.
And you create momentum by doing what you love to do, by doing what you're good at, and you will get into that flow. And here is actually where you start to reap what you've sown. You get that mentally up level. You really get into, there's more elevation, which is the next letter.
Good. I like it.
And that's where you start getting the results coming in. So if you implement what you want to focus on and you truly stay focused on that, you will create that momentum that will get you those results you're looking for. And that's what the time matrix stands for.
I love that, especially, when you start talking about flow, ease, joy, and glory, flow, and the elevation. The big word here is matrix, because
Yes.
I think, we've all seen the movies. I've probably watched them 100 times. I used to give them as homework to my clients, like, go watch this and then we'll talk. But, the matrix is a construct. And so the implication here is that your life, you client, business owner, human being, entrepreneur, your life will be whatever you feed it to be, whatever you construct it to be. And then you get, by design, to live in that matrix that you've constructed. So if you don't have enough time, it's because you've created a matrix that defines lack.
Yes.
I don't have enough time. It's like, but time really, if you really break it down, time doesn't really exist,
No,
right?
it doesn't. It's a made up thing by us.
It is to measure things.
Yes.
So what if you just had a different relationship with that measuring tool? I think that's what you're saying.
It is for sure. Yeah. It's almost like playing with Einstein time. Have you heard of that?
Yes,
That's
love it.
amazing, right? Yeah. So Einstein basically also says time is an illusion, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
And the biggest example is when you're in love, when you just meet someone and
Yes.
you're together, and you basically, you could be together for 5 hours and it feels like 5 minutes, because
Hmm.
you're so in love with the other. Nothing else matters. It's just that other person, and you feel great. Now, you spoke about fitness. Whoever has done planking,
Oh, yes.
you know,
Goes on forever.
goes on. You go 1 minute, and every time you keep checking the time. Where am I? Oh my word, it's only 30 seconds. Oh, I'm never going to make it. Oh, 55, 56, 50, 66.
Woo.
I'm there. And that feels like hours because you don't like it. It's all concept of time, which we create with our perception and how we look at it. That's Einstein time, and you can play with it.
Yes, because I want to, speaking of play, I want to play off of a comment you made about bending time, which I was out running the stairs this morning, and I was thinking about actually literally bending reality and shifting reality on the fly. So fascinating that you would say these words today. In the bending of time, it really is a bending of reality, which starts with how you run your mind. And I think that's what we're saying to people here, is that you have the capacity to shift your reality based on what you consume. In the last podcast I did last week, I was interviewing a physician that's an anti-aging physician. We were talking about consumption, consuming not just food and beverages, the tangible stuff, but what do you consume in terms of relationship dynamics? What do you consume in terms of thoughts, emotions, um, paying attention to your feelings when you're in relationship with people? And we're all in relationship with people, there's no changing that. So in that bending of time, what would be a baby step for someone who's watching and saying, bending time, like, what kind of show is this? Like, what are you talking about, bending reality? But everything is possible. Anything is possible. It's just a matter of dialing your mind into it. So what can they do to get into that frame work, or that frame of mind?
Well, we discussed a couple of examples already, but what I really like is an example that everybody knows and that everybody can play with. We spoke about being able to work from anywhere, right? So
Yes.
let's assume you're going on a holiday, okay, to the Bahamas or Bora Bora, somewhere nice. So you're leaving tomorrow and you've got 1 day to work and your to-do list is endless. Now, what will happen, no matter what, you will finish on time because you have to catch a plane.
Yes.
There's a given. It's a very strict deadline that you have to get. And it's also something nice, so you won't miss the plane because you're going finally to your dream destination. Now, when you have an endless to-do list and you know that you have to catch a plane, you will look at your to-do list, and the first things you will start to do is to see, you know what? This actually is not a priority right
Yes.
now. This can wait. So you start taking things off that you either don't want to do at all or not a priority. So you're already shortening to your to-do list. Then you're going to look at, okay, so what do I really need to do right now? What do I need to start with? And you start focusing on those things because you are so set on catching that plane. Most likely any distractions that are possible, you will switch off. You won't look at your phone. You will not have your pop-ups from your email popping up telling you that there's another annoying email, because you do not have time. You're very focused.
Love that.
And what will also most likely happen, let's say you have to write 2 articles still today before catching that plane. Because you have to write 2 articles, You won't start with one article and then do a couple of phone calls and then start the article again. No, you will do batching. So you'll start with one article and then immediately write the next, because you are already in the flow of writing. You're already in that writer's mood. So you get it done more easy. And because you all start with these things and these techniques, you will be finished on time. And everything that isn't finished on time, you know, deep down is not a priority again. So you will move that forward, or you will, cancel it altogether. And you get on that plane and you feel like, I've done it all. That's how you bend time. And basically, if you, the technique where you set a deadline is called Parkinson's law.
I love it.
Yeah.
So there's I mean, you said a lot there. If I if I if I was to unpack that, what you're saying is multitasking is dead.
For sure.
Right.
It actually takes 23 minutes if you are disrupted by something or you're doing something else to get your focus back.
Yes, I
That's a
can
whole
see
lot.
that. It's horrible. So, anybody that's bragging about being a great multitasker, what you're really saying is that you're really good at distracting yourself from getting things done in an efficient manner.
Yes.
So another thing you're saying to us then is it really, this, first of all, it's a choice. You have to want to get through more stuff so that you can get closer to your goals more quickly and more efficiently. And one of the things I say to my clients in this realm is just teach yourself to make decisions more quickly. And I'm not saying recklessly, just like haphazardly, but I'm saying don't lament things so much, just look at it. You have it in your gut. Your gut is saying yes or no. Roll with it, because the longer you take to make a decision, the more it costs you. And you can always recalibrate off of the decision. If it turns out that's not the best decision because maybe the dynamic of the situation changes, you can always change the decision, right?
Very true. Yeah, it all starts with a decision. I'm so with you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing you're saying is the focus. Hocus pocus focus. It's
Yes.
all about the focus.
Yes,
Whatever you focus on expands.
for sure.
Mhm. I think for us, that's such a basic awareness, but I think for most people, it's not. And the distractions are infinite, exponential between social media, what's happening in the world, our families, our team, just being hungry, when you're working away, like all the distractions can be momentous. And so getting through those distractions, I think, really starts with a decision of I'm completing this, and
Mhm.
then the discipline to just like push out the noise and go, no, I am completing this.
Yes. Yes. And what can really help if you struggle with the discipline is to have an accountability partner.
Mm,
Someone you tell, this is what I'm going to do, and that holds you accountable to really make sure you're doing it. That helps tremendously.
sure. Yeah, so we're talking about business and how this can increase your ROI, which I want to get into. Um, but before we do, just to kind of give it some kind of scope, that accountability partner can happen in every area of your life. So one of the things I like to do for my health is intermittent fasting.
Mhm.
And then I went on a little working vacation for a couple weeks. I went snowmobiling and skiing up in Montana. And, it's like I didn't have access to my gym. Of course, I was outdoors all the time and I was, in a full on physical movement, but it still wasn't my regular routine. So my intermittent fasting and my food choices kind of slid around a bit, and I kind of got sloppy with it. And I just downloaded an app onto my phone yesterday to help me track, the hydration and the time fasting, etc., and showing me the benefit of that. Like in this phase of the fasting, you're fat burning, for example. And it's just so good, it's just so like I'm so good at that because I have something to help me measure.
Yes.
So when you say accountability partner, are you talking about a physical person? Do you have a system for that they check boxes? Like, how do you do that
I
with you?
Yeah, I recommend, one of the things I do offer is accountability, as part of a coaching program that I offer.
Nice.
That is really about accountability, because personally I know what difference it can make. I also encourage my clients to find a business buddy that
Mm,
they, in the morning, text their 3 most impactful actions of the day. I'll talk about that a bit later, but every morning they say, this is what I'm going to focus on today. And then by the end of the day, they're going to say, ooh, I did well, or I didn't make it. And if you do that on a daily basis, it's going to be amazing. So that's something I recommend to my clients, to really work with it. Others like to have like little checklists, this is what I'm going to do today.
sure.
But if you share it with another living person,
Mhm.
and you then share also how you've done, that in my experience really works best.
Well, psychologically, it's exciting to click the box or to check the list and go, I did
Yes.
it. I
Yeah.
achieved it. Yeah. And so essentially what's happening here is through this process, your clients are learning to repattern their mind. Like literally, because my background's in neuroscience and this stuff is always really exciting to me. You can create a new habit much easier than getting rid of an old habit. So essentially what you're doing is you're guiding them to cultivate habits that are in alignment with outcomes.
Yes.
So when we talk about ROI, I mean, the name of the show is The Time Trap Illusion, How to Increase Your ROI. So how does this system,
Mhm.
um, way of thinking and perceiving life essentially increase their ROI?
Immensely. And the reason why is because what you start doing is you start focusing on those things that bring you closer to your goal. So if you want to make more money, then you start focusing on those tasks that make you more money.
Right.
And because you say no to everything else,
Mm.
you actually start having time to enjoy that money, because all of a sudden you have a life. So you're not just creating more income, you're also creating more happiness, because now you're not slaving away, working
Yeah.
non-stop. No, you are focusing, you see the results coming in, which is an achievement in itself that kind of spurs you on to continue. And then because you have time, you actually get to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like building a new reality for yourself rather than buying into a reality that's handed to you because of a societal norm or a status quo or, how somebody did it before you.
Yeah, precisely.
When, how do you identify, like, let's say I'm struggling along and I want to be more effective, but I don't know that it's the way I run my reality on time. I think it's something outside of me. I hear this so much from clients. It's like, it's not me, it's them.
Yeah.
It's it's not me, it's my environment. It's not me, it's, whatever the story is. So
Yeah.
how does a person identify that this is really their choke point?
Well, we always start with asking, okay, so what are you so busy with? And that's a great question in itself, because if they can tell me straight away, I already know, okay, is this all or is there something else?
Right.
And when you talk about what are you so busy with, I can hear the stories they tell themselves.
Ugh.
And when you hear the stories, it's easy to reflect them and hold up the mirror. This is what you're saying. Are you aware of it? And then it already starts clicking in its place. But I also really like to work with proof. So show me your calendar. What's in there? And then instantly you can see the time wasters
Mm-hmm.
and you can see what's actually helping them to achieve their goals or what's making them money.
Yes.
And when people still struggle to let go of those time wasters because, like you said, society or they think they should, I always suggest, okay, so why don't we start with a trial period? I understand that you find these important, but let's say for a month you pause them and let's see what's going to happen. You're not saying I'm going to, abandon them at all, those activities, but right now I'm not focusing on them. And then they start seeing the results and then they start feeling better and they don't even think about those activities that they paused because they will never go back.
Yeah, they realize that where they're at is better, which was, to my point about creating new habits rather than trying to get rid of old habits. It's just a matter of repetition. You put in the behavior and 3 7 21 repetitions somewhere in there. It clicks and becomes just second nature. And then you don't even look at that old habit anymore. It's just not even a thing.
Yeah.
Where does um where does this go? Because I feel that we are infinite, we are endless. It's like we have so much greatness and capacity within us that in a lifetime to get to some level of feeling like you've really started to tap yourself. There's a saying, right, that most people never make it past their 40%, meaning they never self-actualize more than 40% of their possibilities in a lifetime. And to me, that's it's so sad.
I was going to say
It's
that.
it's so disconcerting. I'm like, oh, please, I need to get past that 40%. But I don't have an issue with drive. Like I can easily push past, push. But some people get caught up in enough. Like, this is enough. Look at how much I've done because this is enough. How do you open their eyes to all the stuff they haven't thought of yet? Because I think that's the burning question here.
Yeah. Well, I also have a lot of clients who are like you and me. They have so much drive, they just keep going. And that's where they ask me, okay, I almost can't stop myself. So how do I scale back without giving up my goals? So there's this other fear. But if people
Sure.
come to me saying, and we talk about it, and there's so much more they can give, it's often that they are feeling drained from doing the wrong things. If you end your day when you have worked a full day and then some, and you feel drained and you still feel you haven't done enough, then you're clearly doing the wrong things.
Yes.
And that's such a telltale, because so many people feel drained at the end of the day and they've worked hard, or they thought they worked hard, and yet they feel like they haven't achieved the thing. You're doing the wrong things and you shouldn't focus on those things. And most likely you are procrastinating on the things that truly matter, and you keep postponing them, and that's why your results aren't coming in, because you are not focusing on those truly mattering matters.
Yes, and it creates like all of this resistance energy in your body and in your mind. And resistance energy is just like it's like putting a cement roadblock across your highway or your freeway to success. It is exhausting. I had this session with a client recently about this, and I said, the reason you're so exhausted and stiff and sore, because then resistance energy shows up as inflammation in the body, because it's the thought process of I
Mm-hmm.
can't, therefore I'm X. And then that develops a belief system that is just simply self-sabotage, on steroids. I think that alignment is the key here, when you are, and I'm a big fan of meditation. I'm always insisting my clients just 15 minutes in the morning. Like, I'm not asking for, transcendental hour-long meditations here. Just give me 15 minutes of practicing a clear mind before you start your day. And before you talk to anybody, before you turn on your phone or check your email, just give me 15 minutes where you are, coming into a space of acknowledging you, because then you're aligned with you instead of being aligned with the world or problems or your clients or your staff or whatever. It's, you got to get into alignment with you first. And then you can start to see where you're off. Because what you described about them at the end of the day being exhausted and like, are they self-aware enough to be able to say, I'm exhausted because I've been focusing on the wrong things all day?
No, they just get upset and they just want to work more. So that's why it is so difficult to break the habit. That's why it's so difficult to stop the cycle, because you are used to working more. So what do you do instead of thinking, oh, I can maybe work less, but do better? No, I'm just going to add. But adding the wrong things is only going to tire you more out. And that's why you get the rat race and you feel like you're running in a hamster wheel, because it never ever ends.
Yeah. And it's I think it's why people complain about their work or say, I have to work, I have to do these things. And it's like, no, you get to, because it's a choice. So the
Yes.
question is, what are you choosing?
And it's liberating when people allow themselves to say, I'm doing it differently. This is what I'm starting with. This is what I'm focusing on, and all else, I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah. So what are you seeing? We've been through a pandemic. We've the entire planet was brought to its knees, and we've been in a time of restriction and fear. So what are you seeing through your work in terms of shifts in mindset with people and how they're now looking at themselves, looking at their lives, and what they really think they want now?
Well, I think in a way it's brought a lot of beautiful things to us as well, because people all of a sudden realize that there is so much more than just work, right? They depending on their relationships, a lot of relationships have deepened. Of course, a lot of relationships also,
Sure.
you know, um, and then they realize, I don't want to go back to that life where I never saw my children, where I never was with my
Mhm.
partner. So there is more openness to thinking there is more to life. But the question then also arises, okay, well, how do I do it? Because I still have to work. And especially when people have to go back to offices or locations, not being able from home, how do I then manage it all? So I think the pandemic for many has opened our eyes to realize, I want it all.
Yes, and I agree, because it's shone a light on a lot of limiting beliefs about what it actually takes to be successful. And we're coming out of that paradigm of sacrifice self now for attainment later. And we're into now a new creative zone of I can be, do, and have anything when I align with what it is that I want. And that doesn't mean giving up the rest of my life in order to have XYZ. I mean, if we're talking about materialism and wealth growth, if at one time that was the only acceptable direction to take your life. And if you didn't take your life in that direction, then you really weren't contributing to society. And you were supposed to beat yourself down and sacrifice everything about your life in order to get there, and which brought on this whole belief system of I'm busy, this is my badge of honor. So, we see these, like, the dots connect, and there's an unraveling of that. And what I see is that the shift is in how people see themselves and how they think about what they're creating, that's enabling them to bring results quicker and easier with less time, because that alignment on the inside is an energy, just like time is.
I love how you say that. Yeah. The alignment of the inside, that's basically what it's all about. And when you are aligned and when your energy is right, things will go so much easier. That's
Yes.
when you create that momentum. You have the right vibration. You all of a sudden you attract all these opportunities. It's really amazing when it happens.
Yes, it is. And it's the key to that flow you were talking about. And, just be protective of your energy. If I'm very protective of my energy. It's kind of like becoming a vibrational snob, it's I love you and I can hang with you if you're in a place with yourself that is creative and expansive. But if you want to come hang out to complain and talk about how commiserate, then why don't we get together at another time? And I've become kind of comfortable with actually saying that. It's like, you got this. You can sort through your stuff and then let's go play. I want to do fun things with my friends and even my clients. It's like, no, we're not doing resistance today. We're doing success.
Yeah, that for sure helps because also there, if you focus on your misery, you get more miserable.
I know. I know. This has been so good. I think we could probably go all day.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Or all night in your case. Share with us. I know you have a really great offer. So share with us what that is.
So, for everyone who wants more time or wants to understand where they are actually struggling or how they can bend time, I'm
Love it.
very happy to zoom in on your personal situation. And everybody who does that for 30 minutes conversation with me, almost everyone, if not more, get 20% extra time. So that allows you to go to your happy place to enjoy the beach. So if you're looking for some more time, if you want to know how to bend time, if you want to create more time to have, time for other things than work, set up a call with me, 30 minutes, and you will get it.
I love it. So what's your website so they can go book that?
Yeah, so my website is amazeyourself.com, and there's a dash between amaze and yourself.
So amaze yourself, amaze-self.com.
Yeah, amaze-yourself.com. Yeah.
Yourself. Okay,
Yes.
very good. And we
Yeah.
will add that into the show notes when we post the recording, and then you can let people come to you and have that experience. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today. I know it's evening time for you, and I'd love to have you back again. I think we just kind of started to get the warm-up conversation.
So it feels, yes. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure, and I would love to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And to everyone listening, stay alert, stay awake, and stay sovereign. This is Deborah Peters. You guys have a blessed day.